Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you're meeting someone new and don't know how to start a conversation? Or maybe you're at a party, at work, or even in a cafe, and you're not sure what to say to someone you've just met. How do you begin a conversation with a stranger in a natural way? In today's episode, we'll help you master the skill of making small talk with strangers in various situations. Small talk is a great way to break the ice, build rapport, and make social connections. Whether you're at a networking event, traveling, or just meeting someone new, knowing how to start a conversation can make you feel more confident in English. So, how do you start? What are some easy questions to ask when meeting someone for the first time? What are some phrases you can use to keep the conversation going smoothly? These are all questions we'll answer in today's episode. Let's dive in and learn some essential tips and examples for making small talk with strangers in English. Are you ready to speak confidently? Let's get started. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you're meeting someone new and don't know how to start a conversation? Or maybe you're at a party, at work, or even in a cafe, and you're not sure what to say to someone you've just met. How do you begin a conversation with a stranger in a natural way? Have you ever felt nervous about making small talk in English and wondered how to keep the conversation flowing smoothly? In today's episode, we'll help you master the skill of making small talk with strangers in various situations. Small talk is a great way to break the ice, build rapport, and make social connections. Whether you're at a networking event, traveling, or just meeting someone new, knowing how to start a conversation can make you feel more confident in English. So, how do you start? What are some easy questions to ask when meeting someone for the first time? What are some phrases you can use to keep the conversation going smoothly? How do you find common ground quickly? And how can you make the conversation feel more natural instead of awkward? These are all questions we'll answer in today's episode. Let's take a moment to think about this. When you meet someone new, what are the first things you usually ask? It could be about their job, where they're from, or maybe something as simple as, "How's the weather today?" But making small talk goes beyond just asking questions. It's also about being a good listener and showing genuine interest in the other person. It's about creating a comfortable atmosphere where both people can talk freely without feeling pressured. For example, if you're traveling to a new city and meet a local, you could start by asking about the best places to visit or things to do in the area. This not only opens up the conversation, but it also shows that you're interested in the person's opinion. Or, if you're at a party, a simple, "How do you know the host?" can lead to a longer conversation and make it easier to get to know the person better. The key to making small talk with strangers is to ask open-ended questions. These are questions that can't just be answered with a simple yes or no, but require a more detailed response. For example, instead of asking, "Did you have a good weekend?" try asking, "What did you do over the weekend?" Or, "What's your favorite thing to do on the weekend?" These kinds of questions invite the other person to share more about themselves, making the conversation flow naturally. And don't forget about follow-up questions. These are important for keeping the conversation going. If someone tells you about a trip they just took, you can ask things like, "What was the highlight of your trip?" Or, "What's one thing you would recommend doing there?" This shows you're listening and interested, and it helps build a connection with the other person. Another great way to make small talk is by finding common ground. If you're at a conference or meeting new colleagues at work, try asking about topics that are relevant to the situation, like, "How long have you been working here?" Or, "What do you think about the event so far?" In these situations, people often feel more comfortable talking about shared experiences. When it comes to making small talk, one of the most common challenges is overcoming the initial nervousness of starting a conversation. You might wonder, what if I say something wrong? Or, what if the other person isn't interested in talking? These are normal concerns, but the good news is that small talk is a skill you can develop with practice. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. Let's explore this further by breaking down some practical strategies that will make your small talk engaging and effective. Starting the conversation. The first step is to approach the person confidently. Even if you feel a little nervous, remember that most people appreciate a friendly conversation. Start with a simple greeting and a smile. For example, "Hi, how are you today?" is a universal opener that works in almost any situation. Depending on where you are, you can tailor your greeting to fit the context. If you're at a conference, you might say, "Hi, have you attended this event before?" If you're in a coffee shop, you could try, "Hi, have you tried the coffee here before? What do you recommend?" The trick is to make the opening line feel natural and relevant to the situation. By referencing your shared environment, you're creating an instant connection that makes the other person feel more comfortable. Asking engaging questions. Once you've broken the ice, it's time to keep the conversation flowing with engaging questions. These are the backbone of small talk and will help you avoid awkward silences. Open-ended questions, as we mentioned earlier, are your best friends in these situations. They encourage the other person to share more about themselves and their experiences. Here are a few examples based on different settings. At a networking event, "What brought you here today?" Or, "What's the most interesting session you've attended so far?" At a park, "What's your favorite thing to do here?" Or, "Do you come here often?" On public transport, "Are you heading to work or just exploring the city?" These types of questions not only show genuine interest, but also provide the other person with multiple ways to respond, making the conversation feel more dynamic. Using observational comments. Another effective way to initiate and sustain small talk is by making observational comments. These are remarks about your immediate surroundings, or something that you and the other person can easily relate to. For instance, if you're waiting in line at a cafe, you could say, "It looks like everyone is in the mood for coffee today." Or, "The weather is perfect for sitting outside, don't you think?" Observational comments are a subtle way to invite the other person to join the conversation without putting too much pressure on them. Building on shared interests. Once the conversation is underway, try to identify common interests or experiences. For example, if someone mentions they love traveling, you could ask, "What's your favorite destination so far?" Or, "Do you prefer beach vacations or exploring cities?" Finding common ground not only makes the conversation more engaging, but also creates a sense of connection between you and the other person. Let's imagine you're talking to someone at a party, and they mention that they enjoy cooking. You could say, "That's great. I've been trying to learn some new recipes lately. Do you have a go-to dish you love to make?" This approach not only keeps the conversation going, but also gives the other person a chance to share something they're passionate about. Balancing. Speaking and listening. A good conversation is a balance between speaking and listening. While it's important to share your thoughts and experiences, it's equally important to listen actively to what the other person is saying. Show that you're paying attention by nodding, maintaining eye contact, and using short verbal cues like, "That's interesting," or "I see." When appropriate, ask follow-up questions to dig deeper into the topic. For instance, if someone tells you they recently attended a music concert, you could follow up with, "That sounds amazing. What was the highlight of the performance for you?" Or, "Is this a band you've been a fan of for a long time?" These follow-ups demonstrate that you value what the other person has to say, which helps build rapport. Handling awkward silences. Awkward silences are bound to happen, especially when you're meeting someone for the first time. Instead of panicking, take a moment to think about the environment or the context of the conversation. You can use this as inspiration to bring up a new topic. For example, if there's a lull in the conversation during a networking event, you might say, "By the way, I noticed the keynote speaker mentioned topic. What did you think about that?" Alternatively, you can use humor to lighten the mood. A simple, lighthearted comment like, "I guess we're both trying to think of the perfect question to ask," can help ease any tension and bring a smile to the other person's face. Ending the conversation. Gracefully. Eventually, you'll need to wrap up the conversation, but it's important to do so in a polite and positive way. You might say something like, "It was great talking to you. I've really enjoyed learning about something they mentioned. I hope we can chat again soon." If appropriate, Exchange contact information or suggest reconnecting at a later time. This leaves the other person with a positive impression and keeps the door open for future conversations. In the rest of this episode, Alex and Olivia will guide you through practical examples and scenarios to help you practice these tips. By the end, you'll feel confident and prepared to start conversations with strangers in a variety of situations. Let's keep learning and practicing together. Building on what we've already discussed, let's dive even deeper into how you can make small talk feel natural and engaging in different scenarios. You might feel like a beginner, but with the right strategies and a little practice, you'll soon find yourself making confident and easy connections with people. Small talk isn't just about asking questions, it's about creating a friendly atmosphere, making others feel comfortable, and sharing a bit of yourself too. Adapting to different situations, small talk can look different depending on where you are, who you're with, and what's going on around you. It's important to adjust your approach based on the context. For example, at a formal event like a business conference, small talk will likely be more professional. You might start with questions like, "What do you do for work?" or "How did you get into this industry?" These questions are still conversational, but they're tailored to the context of a work event. On the other hand, if you're meeting someone casually at a coffee shop or at a social event, you can be a bit more informal and relaxed. You could start with questions like, "How do you like your coffee?" or "How did you spend your weekend?" These types of questions help to build rapport in a less formal, more personal way. Understanding the setting is crucial to making small talk feel appropriate. You wouldn't ask deeply personal questions right away in a professional setting, but in a casual setting, it's totally fine to ask someone about their hobbies, travel experiences, or favorite books. Always remember that the goal is to create a pleasant, open exchange of ideas and experiences. Using body language to enhance small talk. Did you know that nonverbal communication, such as body language and facial expressions, plays a huge role in how conversations unfold? When making small talk, it's important to be aware of how you present yourself. A friendly smile, open posture, and eye contact all help to create a warm and welcoming atmosphere. These subtle cues can make the other person feel comfortable, making it easier for them to open up to you. For instance, if you're meeting someone at a party and they're telling you about their job, nodding along and leaning slightly forward can signal that you're interested in what they have to say. You don't have to constantly agree with everything they say, but showing that you're engaged through body language goes a long way in making the conversation flow more smoothly. Sometimes, if someone seems shy or uncomfortable, you might want to adjust your body language to make them feel more at ease. For example, if you're talking to someone who is sitting with their arms crossed, you might try uncrossing your own arms or leaning in a little to demonstrate that you're open and friendly. It's all about creating an environment where both people feel comfortable enough to share and connect. Asking questions that go beyond the surface. At this point, you're probably familiar with asking simple questions like, "Where are you from?" or "What do you do for a living?" These are great starters, but to take your small talk to the next level, you'll want to ask questions that allow the other person to open up more and share something meaningful. Let's explore some ideas for deeper questions that encourage more personal responses. For example, instead of simply asking, "What do you do for work?" you could ask, "What do you enjoy most about your job?" or "What led you to this career?" These questions invite a more thoughtful response and show that you're genuinely interested in the person's experiences, not just looking for basic facts. If someone mentions their hometown, you might ask, "What's your favorite thing about living there?" Or, "How has your town changed over the years?" These types of questions give the person a chance to reflect on their own experiences, and the conversation will naturally deepen. Handling discomfort or awkward situations. Even if you're an expert in making small talk, sometimes awkward situations arise, and that's perfectly normal. Everyone experiences those moments when the conversation starts to feel forced, or there's an uncomfortable silence. So, what can you do in these situations? One approach is to embrace the awkwardness and laugh it off. For instance, if you've been talking for a while and the conversation suddenly stalls, you could say something like, "Well, it looks like we're both having trouble thinking of the next question. This can break the tension and make both of you laugh, easing the situation. Another strategy is to redirect the conversation back to a neutral topic. If the current subject is causing discomfort, try shifting to something more lighthearted, like asking about the weather or commenting on something happening in the environment. So, have you noticed how the weather has changed this week? It's been so unpredictable lately. This can help the conversation get back on track without making anyone feel self-conscious. You can also use open-ended questions to steer the conversation toward a topic that both of you are comfortable discussing. For example, if someone is talking about their work and you sense that they're not really excited about it, you could gently ask, "What do you like to do in your free time?" This gives them the chance to share something they're passionate about, which can reinvigorate the conversation. Connecting with humor is one of the best tools for making small talk feel easy and enjoyable. If the situation allows it, try to use light humor to keep things fun and relaxed. Joking about something relatable, like how awkward it is to meet new people or how confusing the menu at a restaurant is, can create a sense of camaraderie. However, make sure your humor is appropriate for the setting. Light-hearted jokes that everyone can relate to are great for breaking the ice. A good example of this could be if you're attending a social event and the conversation seems to be going in circles. You might say something like, "Well, I think we've covered every possible topic about the weather today. What should we talk about next?" This simple joke helps to refresh the conversation and gives both of you a chance to laugh. It's important to keep in mind that humor can be culturally specific, so always be mindful of the other person's background and ensure that the humor doesn't come across as inappropriate or offensive. That's why general humor about everyday situations is usually a safe bet. Practicing your skills. Finally, one of the best ways to improve your small talk skills is through regular practice. The more you engage in these types of conversations, the more comfortable and confident you will become. Start small by chatting with people you see regularly, whether it's the barista at your local coffee shop, a colleague at work, or a neighbor. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel. You can also practice making small talk in English with a language partner or through online communities. There are plenty of platforms where you can find people to practice speaking with. Even if you're not meeting strangers in person, practicing through conversation exchanges will help you build the confidence to make small talk when the opportunity arises. In the next part of this episode, Alex and Olivia will share more practical examples and role-playing scenarios to help you navigate the challenges of small talk with ease. They'll cover various situations, from casual encounters to more formal interactions, so that you can be prepared for anything. By the end of this episode, you'll have the tools you need to make small talk feel like second nature in any setting. Keep listening and practicing, and soon enough, you'll be making smooth, confident small talk in English. Let's dive even deeper into the nuances of making small talk in a variety of situations, focusing on practical strategies, real-world examples, and cultural considerations. Whether you're talking to someone at a bus stop, attending a work event, or meeting a new group of people, mastering small talk will make you feel more confident and open up new opportunities for meaningful connections. Adapting to different environments with confidence. Small talk is not a one-size-fits-all skill. Different environments require different tones, topics, and levels of formality. Let's look at how to adapt your small talk strategy, depending on where you are. Professional settings. Imagine you're at a networking event or a conference. This environment often calls for polite, professional conversation. Starting with a compliment or observation about the event itself is a great icebreaker. For example, you might say, "The keynote speaker gave an amazing presentation on innovation. What did you think about it?" This question not only initiates the conversation, but also invites the other person to share their perspective. Follow up by asking, "Is this your first time attending this event?" Or, "How did you get into this industry?" These types of questions keep the tone professional while showing genuine interest. Casual social gatherings. Now, imagine you're at a friend's barbecue or a birthday party. The vibe here is much more relaxed. Small talk should feel like a natural part of the experience. You could start with something light, like, "This is such a great party. How do you know the host?" From there, you can dive into more personal but still friendly topics like hobbies, favorite foods, or travel stories. Be ready to share something about yourself as well. For example, I love trying new recipes. The dessert table here has given me some great ideas. Are you into cooking or baking? Public places and everyday encounters. Sometimes small talk happens spontaneously, like in a queue at the grocery store or while waiting for a bus. These interactions are often short, so keep the conversation light and situational. It's so hot today. It feels like summer isn't ready to leave us yet. What do you think? Even these brief exchanges can brighten someone's day and build your confidence in starting conversations. Dealing with cultural differences. In small talk varies greatly across cultures. What's appropriate or expected in one country might feel unusual in another. If you're practicing small talk in English with someone from a different cultural background, it's helpful to know some general tendencies. In English-speaking countries, in countries like the US, the UK, Canada, or Australia, small talk is often informal and centered around neutral topics like weather, sports, or recent news. Questions like, "How's your day going?" or comments like, "What a lovely park this is," are common openers. In more reserved cultures. In some cultures, people might be less accustomed to casual conversation with strangers. It's a good idea to observe their body language and tone before diving into small talk. Start with non-intrusive questions like, "Excuse me, do you know the time?" Or, "This area is so beautiful. Have you been here before?" Finding common ground. One universal rule in small talk is finding shared experiences. No matter where someone is from, talking about food, music, or general life experiences can help you connect. If you're unsure about what to say, look around for cues. If they're holding a book, you might ask, "Is that book interesting? I've been looking for something new to read." Practicing active listening. Active listening is a crucial element of small talk. It shows that you're genuinely interested and encourages the other person to keep talking. Here's how you can practice it. Show you're engaged. Use verbal cues like, "That's interesting," or "I see what you mean." This keeps the conversation flowing. Paraphrase and reflect. Repeat or rephrase what the other person has said to show you're paying attention. For example, "So you've been living here for 2 years? That must have been an exciting change." Ask follow-up questions. If someone mentions they recently visited a new city, ask, "What was the highlight of your trip?" Or, "Would you recommend it to others?" These follow-ups keep the conversation alive. Handling awkward silences. Silences are natural, but they don't have to feel awkward. Here's how to navigate them smoothly. Acknowledge and redirect. If there's a pause, you might say, "I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?" This shows you're willing to keep the conversation going. Switch topics. Keep a mental list of neutral topics to switch to. If one subject doesn't seem to spark interest, pivot to another. By the way, did you catch the latest episode of that popular TV show? Ask for opinions people love, sharing their views. If the silence stretches too long, ask, "What's your take on that?" Or, "Have you ever experienced something similar?" Turning small talk into meaningful connections. The ultimate goal of small talk is to create a connection. To do this, look for moments when the conversation naturally deepens. If someone mentions a passion or a memorable experience, take the opportunity to explore it further. For example, if someone says they love hiking, you might respond with, "That's amazing. Where's the most beautiful place you've hiked? I've always wanted to try, but I'm not sure where to start." This not only keeps the conversation going, but also opens the door for a more meaningful exchange. Role-playing scenarios. Let's put this into practice with some examples. Scenario: meeting a stranger at a coffee shop. You: "This cafe is so cozy. Do you come here often?" Stranger: "Not really, it's my first time here." You: Oh, me too. I heard they have great pastries. What do you recommend? Scenario: starting a conversation at an event. You. These conferences are always a great way to learn something new. What brought you here today? Stranger. I'm here for the keynote speaker. Their research is fascinating. You. I've heard great things about their work. What's your favorite part about their research? The goal is to keep the tone friendly, encouraging, and natural. Making small talk is a valuable skill that can help you navigate different social situations with confidence. It's about striking a balance between asking questions, showing interest, and contributing to the conversation. The more you practice, the more comfortable you will become. Let's explore this further by diving into different scenarios where small talk plays a key role and how to approach them. Small talk in the workplace. How to engage your colleagues in the workplace. Small talk can be a great way to build relationships with colleagues. It helps you stay connected and form a friendly work environment. But small talk at work is slightly different from casual settings. It's important to be mindful of boundaries, especially when it comes to discussing personal topics. Morning greetings. A simple good morning, followed by a small comment about the weather or the day's agenda, can get the conversation started. For example, "Good morning. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful day outside, doesn't it?" Or, "How's your day going so far? Got anything exciting planned out?"